Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the CURT Premium 4 bike rack carrier here on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now guys, this can be a very nice way of getting you and your family to your destination. Now hanging styles right out of the gate usually have a problem with your horizontal purchase actually working. So you do have this nice dual arm support feature, of course, that makes sure your bike's not going to be tilting left or right, giving it a nice stability. However, sometimes if you have a women's bike, step-through bikes, or a lot of times kiddo bikes have a hard time of actually getting on here. So those kids' bikes just don't quite have that horizontal purchase, either the spacing or B, it just might have a little irregularity in that frame. So usually you have to get a bike adapter bar, and that's one more thing to have to keep track of on Saturday morning, trying to get everybody going, trying to hunt that down just to get your bike loaded can be a pain. Well, as you guys can see, the CURT Premium is going to go ahead and eliminate that need with this nice little tapered end here in the middle. So now our kids' bikes, the step-through bikes, and those women bikes are going to have an easier time of getting on here, as we're not going to have to be fighting that horizontal spacing that we were previously. So it makes it really nice not to have that headache and get all the bikes we need for our family to our destination. Now, one thing I really like too, I love pointing out little reflectors on the ends of bike racks. I don't think they're common enough, and it's nice to let everybody know exactly where we are on the road. That way we have an accident-free weekend or trip for ourselves. That way everybody gets home with no worries at all. So do love to see that, especially on black racks such as this. Now the cradles on these guys, not gonna be anything too much to write home about in my opinion. They're gonna do a good job of getting your bikes there. Of course, gonna give it a good purchase. You can see too, it does have a little anti-sway cradle built in. And the reason that's nice, we're going to go ahead and have 4 bikes on this hanging style. So more and more, as you get bikes on here, you're going to see sway. Now, I will say that I don't think this guy does a very good job of securing your bikes entirely. What I mean by that, it's going to do a great job for, you know, your everyday run-of-the-mill bike that you're not too worried about getting paint on, or your paint scratched or damaged, or your just your little bit of paint on there. Really the decals and stuff is what I mean by it, of making it, keeping it look good, as you're just gonna have just a little bit of bounce, a little bit of movement with these straps. They just don't seem to quite work quite as well. If you're worried about that and really wanna make sure that your bikes are staying in pristine condition, or at least getting a lot of help to stay that way, I highly recommend taking a look at the CURT Hitching Post Pro. Now it is gonna reduce your weight capacity a little bit, but you're going to get a little bit better of a cradle system, and it just does a greater job of making sure that our bike's not going to be bouncing around or swaying as much. You can see it still has just a little bit too much sway in my opinion, even with that anti-sway on there. Now one thing to combat that though, we can go ahead and grab ourselves either a cam buckle or ratchet strap system to go ahead and tie off all of our bikes. And if we come to the back of the mast here, you can see we do have a nice little U-bolt here. So that's really going to do a great job with it. It's something I really recommend for the CURT Premium, just because you're going to have a lot of movement on your bikes on there, and every little bit is going to help you make sure your bikes stay in nice and clean working order for the years to come. Now one last little thing about the cradles though too, you guys can see we do have a little bit of grooving in there. That's nice to go ahead and make sure that our brake line cables aren't going to be rubbing up against it. They just have a spot to fit. That way when we cinch it down, they won't be binded up and causing any damage. Now because we do have frame contact though too, we are going to be limited on the kind of bikes we can throw up on here. So carbon frame bikes are going to be a no-go on this guy, as we do have constant frame pressure that will end up warping and deteriorating your carbon frames. We don't want that, so unfortunately not going to be an option for ourselves. Now this guy does have 180 pounds of weight capacity overall, putting about 45 pounds per bike. Now that's pretty much a very good weight capacity if you're asking me, especially if you're probably looking at having smaller bikes here on the end. Now I would be careful. I probably wouldn't exceed more than 50 pounds. I would probably stay within that 45. I know we're going to be tempted to go up there, but it's definitely not designed to carry your heavy e-bikes or even your big fat tire bikes. So I definitely try to keep that weight within that 45, probably pushing it with a 50. Just 45 pounds per bike is probably going to be perfect for yourself, so you don't overload this guy. Well, it's not going to take us too much time to get the bike off. To do so, I just want to come up to those rubber strips, pull them like so. Very easy to do. Still very nice and thick rubber there though, so it's not going to be fraying anytime soon, and we're still going to have a nice secure hold on our bikes. As I said though, I'm not the biggest fan of the straps. However, they still do a good job. That's going to get us to our destination. Well, you saw that bike takes no time to get off. Mounting it is just as easy. I do like how long these strips are. They just hang to the side and they're not in the way. It makes it really easy to go ahead, get your bike up on there, and then start securing your straps rather than having to fight against them the entire time, which can always be a bother. Now, with any hitch-mounted accessory, we're going to be adding a little bit of length to our vehicle. Now, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, not the longest, but definitely not the shortest vehicle we have. So let's go ahead and see exactly what we're working with. From the rear of our bumper here to the very end of our carrier is going to be putting us right at 37 inches there, guys, right underneath it actually. So about 36, maybe 15/16. So it's going to be nice, so we're not going to be adding too much space here, as we don't actually have like 40 inches or so, as I've seen on some of the other hanging styles. However, we do actually have a way of quickly shortening that down as well. At the very top here, we're going to have a spring clip and pin system. All we got to do, pull that clip like so, get our pin out, and allow it to swing down. Our safety cable, make sure it's hanging right there. Even if we were to drop it in those early mornings, going to be hanging right there. Not going to be lost easily. And you're going to see a little bit of play here in this position. I could see this being a little bit annoying if we were driving. However, with it not too much, I don't think it's going to be creating too much noise. And with us being so far back in the Jeep, I don't think we're going to be feeling it as we are driving. This way we can go ahead, condense this down, and see exactly what we're working with, making sure we can pull this in the garage. From the rear of the bumper now to the very end of our cradles, looks like our closest point is going to be about 11 inches there. Now, of course, your strips are hanging out just a little bit further past that. And let's see from that very bottom there, making sure, yep, right at 11 there to the very end of our post. So shortening that down a ton. Now we're going to be able to pull this in the garage, or at the very least, get a lot more maneuverability when we have to park this guy wherever we are. Well, we can go ahead and also access our cargo from this position, which is a great little option for ourselves. You love to see still getting access to that cargo. To do so, we just have a few little steps here. First things first, we're going to go ahead and untighten this back bolt. That kind of like, see, as you guys can see, that mass moves a lot when that bolt's undone. That reduces that for ourselves. And we have just another little retaining clip and pin system, and that's going to go ahead, allow us to pull up on that back bolt and start allowing us to tilt this away from our vehicle. Now we can go ahead, pop open our hatch. You can see ample clearance to get this guy open. Now I get in here, get my coolers, bike helmets, anything I might need. I really like to how I can sit on here now, change my shoes if I need to, and that way I can hit the trails and get ready in no time. So I like how quick and easy that is to really utilize. Now the one thing, of course, you do have to take your bikes off. If you're looking for access to your cargo without constantly having to take your bikes off, if you're wanting to stop at a lot of gas stations a lot of times, looking for that long road trip, highly recommend start looking at some tray style or platform style racks. They're going to give you a lot of greater options of actually getting in there and getting your bikes still on your carrier while allowing you to access your cargo. Now all we have to do though is start slotting everything in and getting us nice and secured down. So we can go ahead, replace our clip. And one big thing, guys, don't forget to tighten down that back bolt. It really does a good job of reducing this play. And all we have to do, make sure it's straight and start tightening now with our thumb and our index. You can see how well of a job that brings it in line. Now, of course, it can always be nice to really tighten that down for your long road trips to really reduce the play that your bikes are going to have. Now, one last little dimension to check here is going to be our clearance. Since we have a nice little hanging style, we're not going to be too worried about our bikes as they're up and out of the way. However, we do want to go ahead and make sure we're not going to be grounding out here. So from the ground to the very end here, looks like it's going to be putting us right at a foot there, guys. So about 12 inches there to the very bottom. That's going to be ample clearance for ourselves as we are sitting very close to our rear axle. But just keep in mind, as those front wheels go up, the back will go down, and so will your hitch-mounted accessories. So if you have any very steep inclines coming up ahead, some terrain, or if you're doing a little off-roading, let's just be a little conscious that we do have about a foot clearance there. Moving our way to the inside, though, you'll see we do have a 2-inch tank here today, allowing us to utilize our 2-inch receiver. Now, we also do have a threaded anti-rattle hitch bolt on here. You can see that clip, that retaining clip just holding it in place. Now, those guys are very standard. What they do is they bring this all in line to your hitch, bring this all in line to one system. As you guys can see, as I shake this, it's shaking the entirety of our Jeep here. That means we're making a nice smooth system for ourselves as we drive, our bike rack, but especially our bikes. And that's a huge thing with hanging style. Anything you can really do to help reduce that sway is going to be huge. And those anti-rattles do a very good job. Now, I will say, though, we don't have any innate security measures on this guy. Now, we do have a couple options here at etrailer.com to allow ourselves to get security options. However, that will have to be a separate purchase for ourselves. I highly recommend it, though, especially if you find yourself actually taking this for longer drives. It's nice to go ahead, have that peace of mind, knowing our carrier carrier is going to be attached to our vehicle when we come back, but also that our bikes can be nice and secured. And I really do like that U-bolt. Allows us to go ahead, grab a cable lock, loop it through our bikes, and that way our bikes are always on our carrier whenever we are. Well, guys, I think that about does it for the look at the CURT Premium 4-back rack carrier. Now, one last thing I will say, though, you are going to lose a little bit on your rear backup camera here, especially as you have 4 bikes. However, that's going to be a thing you're going to have to run into with a lot of different carriers. Again, platform racks probably going to be your best friend in that regards, though, if you're still wanting that backup cam capability. Well, guys, that about does it for our look at the CURT Premium 4-back rack carrier here on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.
Here it is on our test course. We'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Next, we're at the alternating speed bumps, which we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving over uneven pavement. Finally, we have the full speed bumps, where we'll see the up and down action, which is just like driving out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway.